Okay, guys and girls, let's wait for this audience to build up. You are seeing us coming through Facebook live stream, and in addition to that, that is Instagram over there. Johnny McGrath, how are you feeling?
Good, very good. Very, very excited. Well, I mean, everyone's going to have, well, not everyone, but a lot of people are going to have a few days off over the Easter break. So I think everyone's kind of feeling quite good at the moment. And I think, I think it's a good time. The market around Australia is, I think it's actually stabilised a bit, Tommy. I know there's still a bit of negativity out there and some markets are a bit better than others, but I actually think it's a great time.
John, I auctioned on Saturday, 12 out of 13. Now, 12 out of 13. Now, there's so this is a genuine 12 out of 13 property transactions, not where, people say, oh, that's sold the day before, what have you. So the issue is...
So the interesting thing you say that, I want you to keep that thought. Someone that's out there that passed in 4 out of 4 is going to hear that and they're going to say, shit, maybe it is me, which is actually a good conclusion to come to, because if you passed in 4 out of 4 and Tommy, your clients have sold 12 out of 13, you got to have a look at that, right?
Yeah, you can't have a marketplace that isn't okay doing 12 out of 13. It means to me that there's buyers there. It means to me that there's an appetite for buyers that see value, right? It means to me that people have got the capacity to still get loans. Yep. So this is nothing like 1989, John. Like Correct. 1989, we're one of the few people that still operate in real estate that were around in that period. 1989, there were not people, like it would be hard to do 12 out of 13 in 1989. Interest rates are
almost impossible. Interest rates 17, 18%. Banks just weren't lending at all. I actually think the law of contrast says it feels a bit soggy now, but reality is if you took a snapshot of the Australian market, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Gold Coast, wherever, and you compared it with almost any other market in the world, our current softer version of the market is better than most people's really good market. So I think we just got to get into the mindset that this is not a bad market. If you list right, sell right, market right, you're going to get the result.
I've just got off, as I've been driving, we're at the Newtown McGrath office. I've just left Ray White Double Bay doing coaching and training with Gavin and the team there. Mm-hmm. So two things have happened. Firstly, Gavin's up year on year. As I'm driving here, Shari, who's speaking at AREC, has just sent me a text message. Great news, Tom. 30th listing and 10th sale of the month. Right? But by the way, so you don't know we bullshit about numbers when we talk about them, just go to realestate.com and you can look at the sold section. John, Shari does 230 sales. He's going to be speaking at AREC, and I said to him, when you speak at AREC, I want you to explain how do you have the capacity to do 230 transactions? I mean, you've got to have a system there to do that, isn't it, John?
Oh, it's essential. You don't just fluke 230 sales. You might fluke 12 sales, you don't fluke 230. So, and that's one of the beauties of events like AREC, or hopefully podcasts or webinars like this, is we're actually going to give people real live things they can put in the market this afternoon. I was coaching last week and a guy said, had a 7:30 till 9:30 session. He said he left there, went to a listing, signed it up off the back of a piece of dialogue. So I know you and I subscribe to this. What you guys hear today, and at AREC or wherever else, you got to put them into practice. This is the key thing, is about executing on good ideas.
Okay, so Johnny, we both don't believe in this theory of commission breadth. So every time we do a bit of content, we want to go off and we don't want to clickbait people. We want to go off and give people good content, information that they turn around and say, that was 40 minutes, that was well spent. I think some of the biggest topics around at the moment is, how do you actually secure stock at reasonable prices without destroying the dreams of vendors, but at the same time having the practicality that good value is what sells, and lottery prices aren't, what happens in 2019. So I'd love to tap on, some of that beautiful language and approach at a listing presentation you have on listing presentations. I'd love to talk about that. I'd love to talk about, what is it that really great real estate agents are doing to put themselves in a position to be in front of more potential vendors. I'd like to talk about that. I'd like to talk about, what does a conversation sound like to a vendor when you're letting them know that This is the state, because some of the vendor conversations now are preparing a vendor to accept reality. Some agents can do that better than others.
So Tommy, a couple of things, and there's a lot of stuff, let's unpack some of it. My experience and my observation, the key thing to all of that is your mental state. If you think the market's tough, the energy will go right through your body, and every conversation is going to have that energy attached to it. So you've actually got to convince yourself what I believe to be reality, and so do you, and you've just talked about your experience on the weekend. The market is as tough or as easy as the professionalism and the activities that you're undertaking day in, day out. So I remember Phil Harris, we're going to talk about some of our favourite AREC speakers, but he said you need three things in real estate. You need 2 to 3 hours a day prospecting with the right dialogue with the right people. 2 is you need to have a winning listing presentation that is so good you get 8 out of 10 listings you go for. 3 is you need a sales process that will sell every listing in 30 days. You get those 3 things right, and those 3 elements are very doable. Anyone can sit there and ring 2 or 3 hours worth of people and say, hey Tom, just wanted to keep you up to date with what's happening in the marketplace, etc. This sort of conversation.
So that's the process to getting them sold. Then you said the listing presentation and 2 to 3 hours of prospecting. I mean, to me, it sounds so easy. What you've just said to me is there's 3 core things.
I think it's simple. I think it's simple. I think we complicate it. We do complicate it because people don't want to go to the dark place, which is the discomfort. So if I'm not a good prospector, I kind of pretend and I hope and I write a check hoping that someone else will find me leads, or I go to Open Agent, or I put out 1,000 DL cards. Reality is a good prospector, this is like, sort of face to face in the trenches, conversations with real people, one step at a time, one conversation at a time, building relationships. There's an effort required, but the effort is worth it. But don't delude yourself, there's no effort required. But you got to get yourself into the office, you got to do something before you get to the office so you're feeling good, you got to have the energy, so that when you pick up the phone people feel the energy, and you got to make damn well 2 to 3 hours call a day, or whatever is your strategy. So I think the first thing about all of that is your business is a reflection of what's going on inside of you. If your business is not going well, don't blame the market, don't blame competitors. Look at what is your energy, what are you doing, and how do we have to improve that. So that's really the key thing. Next thing is, what is your playbook? What is your plan? So you talked before, I think the first question was around how do you win listings without taking away the dream, but without over-promising. It's called authenticity, it's called gravity, it's called feeling comfortable in myself. So I sit down and I say, Tom, so let's just talk about something that's on everyone's lips, and it's on the 6 o'clock news too often at the moment. It's about the market in terms of the pricing. What we don't know is exactly what your home's worth. What I do know unequivocally is how to extract the best price in the market. And I'm going to spend most of the time we're together, you said you've got an hour, most of the time I'm going to spend talking you through the process and what are the little things that we're going to do to maximise your price. Because there's not one thing, there's lots of little things. When it comes to price, all we can do right now is look at what's been selling and what's for sale. That will give us a range of where we think the buyers are probably going to see great value, reasonable value, market value. That's not the sale price. The sale price depends on the plan that you and I come up with and how well I execute it for you. So don't get too stuck on price today. Let's look at the comparables. I bought 3 things here, 3 properties here that I think are relevant. What's your feedback? So what I'm doing, what you're hearing, Tom, is an energy that's confident, calm, business-like, matter of fact. I'm not apologising. Oh, Tom, I'm really sorry, but I know last year it was worth more. I'm just getting down to it. Here's what we do know. Here's what we don't know. Here's the process.
But that's not, John, that's not even Amway talk. I think you've just told me the truth in the fastest possible way with the most authentic approach. What you've just said to me is the reality. Yep. No one's going to get that price right, is it?
No one go. Anyone that promises you this, and I don't necessarily say this because I don't want to be seen to be denigrating, but anyone that promises you a price doesn't know what they're talking about because they don't guarantee it. So if I arrive and I'm confident about my own ability because I have a plan and it's a professional plan and it involves price guides and pest and building reports and open for inspections and great negotiation skills and social media, I've got a plan. If I can look you in the eye and say, Tom, I have a plan to maximise your price. That's what you're paying me to do, is maximise your price.
So you're saying, John, the confidence comes from the plan. Because that's another thing that I'm thinking of. Why is it that there's a group of guy or girls that are able to go in and not have that nervousness about this conversation? Is that people born that way?
No, I don't think anyone's born anyway. I think people are subject to an environment, and then outside of that environment they work on themselves to become a particular way. So I don't think anyone's born confident or not confident. I think some people go through a process in their life that makes them either more confident or less, and those that makes them less, they work on themselves or they don't. So right now the market's the market. Your mindset has to be, my job is to extract the most amount of money for every one of my clients in this market, and I have a process to achieve that. So back to Phil Harris's, you've got to have an 8 out of 10 listing presentation at least. So I think that the separating factor is your mindset, your character, the character you've got. If you're fearful, nervous, that's going to come across, and you'll be an average agent. If you're fearful, nervous, but are going to work hard to become calm and confident, your results will change like that. So you've got. And
it's not a 2-year project, is it, John? I mean, people can change.
You can start today. You'll never stop. So in a sense, it never stops. But the improvement you can make in 30 days is massive. And it's like a snowball effect, Tommy. In the cartoons where the snowball gets bigger and bigger. Real estate is like that, and character and capability, they're important. So character is, who am I? Do I feel excited about it? Do I feel confident in myself? Am I a humble person? Or am I someone that puts all my energy into projecting a certain ego because I'm insecure and I want everyone to think that I'm this? Just be yourself. And then when someone meets you, they think, gee, that Tom Panos, he's a good guy, which is what I hear all the time. People say, God, I met Tom, and what I saw on the webinar was kind of what I met in the person, and he was like matter of fact and down to earth.
It's funny you say about that. Yesterday I'm having a coffee before the gym at 5 Dock, and a guy called Alex, I actually sent you a photo of him, an electrician,
yeah,
right? And Alex walks in. He doesn't live in the inner west, but he had a job in 5 Dock, and he comes up and he says politely, I know you're reading something. I was reading, whenever the West Tigers win, I read everything. I read everything
once a year,
right? Once a year, right? And he said to me, I was on and it was such a good, I was on a flight flying back from the Gold Coast, and I used points to upgrade to sit in business class. So that was a humble thing to say as well. Sort of, I used points to upgrade.
Yep, no ego.
Right.
Good.
And I sat by coincidence to John McGrath. He goes,
great guy.
The guy, and he says, I know he was busy because he was taking lots of notes down. He was writing lots of notes, but he was kind enough to speak to me. And then he said, he's a nice person. And I said, yeah. And he goes, surprising. And I was surprised at what I said, why do you say that? He goes, I just thought someone that's sort of, flat out busy, company this and that wouldn't have the time to talk to people. Sometimes people get that impression, isn't it?
I think sometimes it's reality. There are some people in real estate and in business and in life that they believe their own press releases and they think that they're better and bigger than anyone else. No, I remember meeting him. He's a terrific guy. So, it comes back to, there's 2 things, character and capability. Character is who you are, what you think, what you believe, how you feel. And how you feel and believe depends on what you think. That's why it's so important, we think, to keep having people watch these MDA podcasts, webinars, go to AREC, all the kind of stuff we think is important, because how you feel about the world and see yourself is critical. The capability bit is the skills. You can learn anything. You want to learn to play the piano, just go to a piano teacher or hire a piano, go every day and you're going to be able to play it, or golf or whatever it is. But you have to work at your craft. You want to be a great agent, it's just like being a great pianist or a great golf player, you got to work at your craft. So if you hear us say something, don't just say, wow, that sounded good when Tom said that. Practice it, write it down, practice it, go to your friends, go to your next listing and talk about it. Go to your sales principal and say, I want to do some role playing with you, because that's what the great agents do, they practice.
John, one of the pieces of dialogue that my gym members have used at listing presentations from you, and it's a consistent pattern, is when you said about a year and a half ago, when you're sitting there in front of a vendor and said, the good news is the pressure is off us today to get the price, right? That's the good news. However,
To agree on price. Yeah. To agree on the price.
To agree on the price.
Yeah.
However, we are going to need to put some serious thought on how we're going to extract that top dollar, the plan. And I think...
So great, almost identical to what I said, I remember it. And some people got it and used it. Other people heard it, thought it sounded good, but thought, oh, well, that's how John or Tom do it. You've got to put this stuff into practice because everything we talk about works. It'll work better for some because they'll practice it and they'll believe it and they'll make it part of their repertoire. But everything works. You don't have to be in Newtown to make this stuff work.
Guys and girls, I'm putting press the share button on Facebook right now or tag a friend, because we want to get as many people onto the rest of the 20 minutes of this webinar. And the winner, John, we'll do this. We're going to pick one winner that either shares the post or tags it, and we'll do a half-hour coaching session.
Beautiful.
They'll come along to a podcast. They'll sit and watch the podcast.
Beautiful.
And then we'll do a half-an-hour coaching session with them.
Can't wait.
Okay, so gang, press that share button now. Tag a colleague. If you feel, by the way, don't do it if you actually feel like the stuff's bullshit, but right, but you just want to win the prize. Do it if you actually feel that they're going to benefit out of it. Press that share button. Now, Johnny, I was thinking about this is like the 10th AREC in a row I've either spoken, MC'd, hosted, and I've been thinking about, some of the golden content that's come out over that period of time. Yeah. For some reason, that guy, Peter, your mate, Peter last year.
Fuda or Sheehan?
Peter Fuda.
Yeah.
Peter Fuda.
Yeah.
I can't get over how impactful that thing about the dartboard, playing a game
you can win.
That you can win, playing a game that you can win. And the way he created the context, and he said that most people fail because they were never going to win in the first place because the rules of the game meant it was hard for them to win.
So I think he actually, the extended metaphor he used, Tommy, from memory was, most people got a dartboard in the corner and they blindfold themselves and they get a dart and they kind of throw it in the direction and hope, and occasionally you'll get it, get the listing, get the sale. He said, I get the dartboard, no blindfold, I walk up and I put the dart in the bullseye.
Yeah.
He said, I create a game that I can win. So what did that mean in the real estate metaphor? To me anyway, it would be, example listing presentation. If you go in there and you don't set it up in talking about price, you're playing a game you can't win, because if you go too high, the vendor said, great, that's more than I thought, this is awesome. Yeah, Tom, you got the business. If you go too low, they say, oh, he didn't like my property, so I'm going to go with the person up the road. If you actually say, Tom, let me just explain pricing, because this is a really important part, and this is what we need to decide today, and this is what we don't have to decide today. So the good news is we don't have to finalise a price today. We need to have a discussion, and then exactly what I just said. That is setting yourself up for success around pricing, because if you don't want to play the too high, too low game. Do I have to lie, give a big lie? Do I have to be like mega tough so if I get the listing then it's going to be saleable? No, you don't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
You just have to set up. So you walk up to the dartboard when it comes to pricing and you put it in the middle. But there's most agents have still got the blindfold, the fog, the mist, and they're throwing a dart, hoping that we have a conversation that kind of will get the listing and will kind of give me a chance to get the price. That ain't going to sell 230 properties a year. So I love that. He also used the metaphor of burning platform. And I remember, because I use it all the time, I'll just say it again for those that either didn't see him or don't recall it. You know, the sort of plank that painters paint on, he said, if I suspended a plank on 2 bricks for 10 metres, would you walk across it? If I asked you, I said, yeah, no reason why not. Then he said, what if I suspended it above 2 buildings, 20 metres tall, same width plank, would you walk across it? And I said, no way. And then he said, well, what if your loved ones were on the building on the other side, the building was burning, the only way to save their life was you had to walk across the plank? Of course. So all of a sudden, what changed between the second and the third metaphor is you had a reason that was bigger than the fear that drove you to achieve an outcome that was like bigger than you. And I think in real estate, when we talk about burning platform, what is your reason to get on the phone when it feels uncomfortable and you want to hit snooze button, or you'd rather, read the Daily Telegraph than you would make 10 phone calls? There's got to be a reason bigger than you. And I think the burning platform metaphor is, what is your equivalent of that burning platform?
I love that. John, you won't believe it. Even though I sat through there, I can't recall that story. I mean, sometimes I've got Nicola talking to me on an earpiece or something. But I think what you've summed up there is when your why is bigger than the obstacles,
100%.
right? That you are again setting yourself up to have a better chance of winning in this game. So that means getting a bit of clarity as to what you want life to look like for you that excites you.
And to make sure exactly, Tom, it's bigger than your current situation. Because if it's like, well, I want to pay my mortgage off, well, that's an admirable goal and I want people to be able to do that, but it kind of doesn't get you to the burning building on the other side. If you want to help the world and inspire the community and build a block of flats for a charity and do something for your family that the side of your family has got no financial success, that becomes a bigger reason. You're actually doing it for more than you. So I thought that was outstanding. The other thing he talked about that I remembered, and to be honest, I just took a note of it here. He said, don't sell, create the gap. So for me, again, I'll just give you my...
Don't sell, create the gap.
So find out where the customer is now, where they want to get to, understand the gap or the and identify the solution and solve their problem. So right now you own a home in Haberfield and you want to sell it. You bought another place, you're a bit nervous because you've already exchanged on the other one. You've got 60 days to settle and the news is telling you it's a bad market. Well, I understand that. So let's just talk through how do I close that gap so you don't lose sleep tonight, you're confident in the plan we have, and it's a little bit like if you oversell, people reel back. If you don't care but not that much sort of thing, people they lean forward. So tell me about how would we do that? So the energy, the character of the individual, you can't oversell, overstretch, you can't try so hard that it feels desperate.
You know, John, on Sunday, I was in it's funny, it just reminds me, I was in a shop. You know when a sales assistant comes straight for you within seconds? Don't you sort of look for a reason to...
I'm fine, just browsing.
You know what I mean? It's having this ability to sort of know that they're there. Like the opposite is when you could be in a shop, and this has happened to me at JB Hi-Fi once, where you sit there and people are running past you and you're scared to interrupt an assistant. It's this balance of they're there, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, look, I think and that comes to character. How are you at an open for inspection? Do you feel accessible or do you feel inaccessible? You got to feel accessible, but do you feel desperate or do you feel calm and confident? So when someone says, God, tough market, Tommy, for you, your reaction to that is going to have a big impact on what happens next in the conversation. Just say, look, it's really interesting you say that, and I can understand why you'd be saying that, Tom, because it seems the media right now wants to tell everyone that. Last weekend I did 12 out of 13 auctions, so I guess it really talks to the fact that good properties, well promoted and well priced, are selling really readily. Bang, you've changed the scenario and the energy, and that person either buys the property or walks away more confident about the market. And it's not bullshit, Tom. It's not like you did sell 12 out of 13. Cindy Kennedy did sell 8 properties in the last 2 weeks. We did have a 230 sales in last year. All of these things are real. And there's also real stuff where someone has only sold 1 property in the last 3 months. It's which reality do you want to look to for your role model and duplicate? So, and that's what AREC's about. One of the things we love about AREC, and I'm not seeking to oversell AREC, but we're excited about it, and we're going to talk about it a bit later. It's about giving you access to coaches, mentors, and agents that are shooting the lights out so you can listen to them, meet them, hear what they've got to say, take notes. Like some of these notes
Johnny,
that I've taken.
you've just reminded, because you brought up AREC, I've opened up the brochure. I was in London 2 weeks ago and I hung out with Tom Ferry. I love that guy. And Tom Ferry said to me, you're so lucky, and I think he's talking about Todd Duncan. Todd Duncan.
Yeah, they know each other well.
Okay, he said, you're so lucky to have Todd Duncan.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know much about Todd Duncan, so all I said to Tom Ferry is, yeah, we're pumped as well, and try to move the conversation there. Who's Todd Duncan?
So Todd,
because really... Tom Ferry reckons mate, this guy here, he goes, mortgage brokers, real estate agents, this guy's a god.
He started in the mortgage broking and he was like a superstar mortgage broker, and then he wanted to leverage his skills and he started coaching the industry, and he became the best coach on the planet Earth for elite mortgage brokers. And then he thought, this is great, I'm loving what I'm doing, but there's a big market called real estate as well, and I think I'll go and do some of that. I met him with John Simon when I spoke to
Aussie Home Loans
a few years ago, and John just said to me,
the older John Simon.
Yeah, John,
yeah.
not James, John.
Right.
And he just said, this guy's a gun, he's on after you, can you stay after? I said, yeah, I'd love to stay afterwards. So I gave my little speech, and then I stayed and watched him for an hour, mesmerising. This guy, when you talk about professionalism, raising the bar, he is as good as it gets. So go on to YouTube. If you haven't seen him, go on to YouTube.
So Todd Duncan, so he's doing 2 sessions, and I'm just having a look. We talk about 230 sales with Shari, but there's I think there's 210 sales. Tom Hector,
30 sales in a month.
So there are people in real estate that, you know, I see, how many sales have you made for the year? Oh, you know, I'm on track to do, you know, 17, 20. We've got people that are doing 10 times that production that they're going to be.
They're doing that in a month, right? Exactly.
They're doing
right.
Correct.
Cindy, I actually mentioned Cindy not even.
What did you do? 8?
This is 8 sales in the last 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. In Balmain, very tough market. You know, we know there's, you know, Cobden Hasten and the guys there, Bressix, they're some of the best agents in the country, and she just smashed it the last month, and she's speaking. You know, the speakers are amazing, but, you know, whether you go for the insights from Todd Duncan or whether you go to meet Cindy or Shari and, you know, David Walker and all these people, you just got to, you have to put yourself in a position to listen to, meet, learn from the best in the business. So that's why we.
And I just and we've got the auction competition.
Yeah.
Which, look, even though I auction, it's something that it doesn't interest me that much. But I can't get over the amount of people that are obsessed with the auction competitions. They're obsessed with watching the best of the best. Yeah. You know, perform in front of peers, which is one of the hardest things to do.
So it'll actually even better this year, Tommy, because we're actually going to do it in the big forum.
Right.
So before each break, or maybe just after each break, we've got a 15-minute allocation. So I want everyone to see elite auctioneering. Even if you don't auction, these guys are magnificent salespeople in the moment, because you and I believe that auctioneering is about selling in a compressed environment. So you're seeing these guys and their ability to sell and describe things and engage with an audience is pretty exciting. So, yeah.
Who have been, Johnny, over the years, is this the 21st AREC?
22nd, I think.
22nd. Nicola says 22nd. 22nd AREC. So, in those 22 years, you've been at every one of them. One of the things that people ask, like they say, why do you and John don't speak more? I said, well, mate, how much more can I speak when I'm the actual MC? And then they said, why doesn't John speak more? And I said, I don't know that. Nicola's nodding their head. That's one of the things that they say, right?
And it's funny because Sam from Elite Magazine, she interviewed me recently on a podcast and said the same thing, which I'm very flattered that people are interested. And maybe next year is a good year to come back. I felt, Tommy, for me, I'd done it every year for maybe 17 years, and I felt I didn't want to bore people, I'd be overexposed.
But you don't bore people. Well, because on all my video things, so you get the highest engagement. You know, I can pretty much tell you, I'll even put my neck on the line here and say that within 48 hours on Facebook live stream, this is going to be probably 15, 20,000 views. I don't get that with others, so you don't bore them, but you probably...
that was kind of my concern, and you know, I wanted to make sure that people were getting fresh content, and then of course we're doing things like this MDA podcast all the time, so I've tried to balance it. But you know, it's nice that a few people have said love to see you back on stage, so probably next year would be a good opportunity to do that.
In the 22 years, apart from content that you've spoken at those 15 or 17 years of it, what are some of the speakers or concepts that have got you, that have had a profound impact in you, that you recall?
Some of them I mentioned. Phil Harris, I think, is just an incredible agent. And I look at Phil Harris and I see his kind of doppelganger being Matt Steinway. I think those two guys are incredibly genuine human beings. They have a great story. They're brilliant salespeople. They're leading by example, and they do it authentically. So I think that's great. And the Phil Harris stuff, I mean, what did Phil say? I remember he said, AM energy, mornings it's out there creating new business. I'm on the phone, I'm prospecting, I'm lead generating, and then PM, I'm servicing the business that I'm creating. Just little things, the way he talked about that. So that's a very light version of an ideal week or ideal day. And then he said those three things, you know, you need to have a 2 to 3 hours prospecting, you need to have a listing presentation that wins 8 out of 10, and it just stuck with me, and you need to have a sales plan that sells every listing within 30 days. And I thought, what a simple but profound way to do that. Funny, one of the controversial ones, we're going back memory lane here, but Jordan Belfort.
Jordan Belfort,
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
And that was controversial because people loved him or hated him, and at the time there was that 60-minute story
Just
that
before.
ran, and I still remember, Johnny, that what happened is we made a decision to change when he'd actually speak on the day, and we were sitting there in the lunch break, and then you said. Tommy's the MC, and Tommy will have a chat to you about the formatting and timing. And I thought, shit, I'm the guy now. But he was, mate,
I'll
he was
tell you
outstanding.
the quick story, because most people would know he was a Wolf of Wall Street, and there's been a movie and a book come out that talks about his life, which is kind of not one we suggest people replicate, but he admits,
Leonardo DiCaprio plays Jordan.
played him, and look, he says, look, I'm not saying you should try and replicate what happened, but it is what it is, and I can't change it. I can talk about it. Amongst all of that craziness, he actually was a very good salesperson. Unfortunately, he just had some dark habits, which I think he's moved away from. So I say everyone deserves a second chance. But I remember, I'd kind of heard about this guy, and I'd heard a vague story that he was this guy who made a lot of money in Wall Street, then lost a lot of money, and he was kind of locked up for a little while. But he was, maybe I should have researched it, but someone said you should check this guy out for AREC.
When you booked the thing, you hadn't watched the movie.
Well, the movie hadn't come out.
Right.
The movie came out. So then I went online and I watched a couple of YouTube about his straight line selling. I thought, wow, this guy is hot, man. I said to Nicola, we got to have this guy. He said he's really hot. He's great sale, very direct. So it's good. And then I'm driving to Darling Harbour one day and I see this massive poster, Wolf of Wall Street movie coming out, whatever. And I thought, man, we're just like, good luck. We're geniuses. We got this great movie. We got this guy who's
You've got a marketing campaign across Australia promoting AREC.
Then someone says to me, John, have you seen this movie? And I said, no, but the guy speaking at AREC, they said, yeah, I know, that's why I'm asking you. Have you seen, you better go and watch the movie, which I never did, but enough people told me about it. And I thought, oh my God. So then it was controversial. The media rings up and says, why are you putting this guy in front of people and he's a reprobate and all this? And I'm thinking to Nicola, oh my God. Anyway, he turned up and I remember having sort of the conversation with you and then with him, and we said, look, he was going to speak straight after.
No, he was going to speak before the lunch. He was going to speak before the lunch break. And then what we decided to do is to say, for those of you that are really looking forward to see Jordan Belfort, come back after the lunch break.
That's right, because we didn't want anyone getting up and walking out. And we genuinely thought this was a concern because the movie was, apparently pretty horrible. But I still knew in amongst all of that, because I'd done enough research subsequent to that to realise that the guy had turned a new leaf. He still had great sales stuff. So I remember having the conversation with him and I said, Jordan, look, I don't want to sound rude, but obviously you're on 60 Minutes recently. You've polarised people a bit, worried about people walking out of the room, so we're going to. And then I remember him saying, John, don't worry. Within 2 minutes, they're going to love the story. And I thought, he's got confidence. And confidence was one of the big things about him that was really compelling, that the guy believed in himself. And even though he had a sordid past, he owned it, everyone knew about it, and he's saying, it's time to move on. And I thought it was really...
But John, not only was he confident, he actually delivered on what he said. Because afterwards, people were lining up to have these books and photos taken with him in that separate area. And his talk is probably along what Peter Fuda says. He delivered a talk which was, have a listing presentation, a sales process that you got a very high probability of winning. And that's what he delivered in that conversation.
And straight line selling is still great selling. So one of the couple of things he remembered that stood out in my mind, he said, when you turn up, you've got to be enthusiastic as hell, sharp as a tack, and display that you are the most professional in your field. And again, these little things you remember years. So enthusiastic as hell, well, that's what's your mindset. How excited are you? Sharp as a tack, you got to have the information, you got to be present, you got to be there, and professional. So what are you doing to prove your professionalism? I thought, and he said, you got to sell yourself, you got to sell your service, you got to sell your company. So, I've got, because I'm choosing you, but I know there's a company behind you, I want to be confident in both. Then I want you to share your service so I understand I'm confident in the process. So these little things that you remember. James Tosterman, number one agent in Australia for most of the last 2 decades, he's been at every AREC, every single AREC. And as a speaker,
obsessed learner.
Twice as a speaker.
So, Johnny, I want to ask you a little bit about Barbara Corcoran, because I don't know anything about Barbara Corcoran, right? All I know is that she's been on the Fish Tank.
Shark Tank.
I said I've said that 50 times. I remember I remember even sitting on set with you in Was it in Alexandria? I'm sitting there. I said, I'm really happy to be, coming along and watching Fish Tank live. And I remember the guy looked at me and he anyway. But John, she's on Shark Tank in the USA.
Good question, because not everyone knows Barbara. She started a company called Corcoran's. That's her surname. In New York in the 70s, and I've got to tell you that New York, Manhattan, top-end real estate was no place in those days for women, bizarrely, and we know now that women make the best real estate agents in the world, but it was a men's world, it was male-dominated in the boardroom. Here is this kind of relatively young, I think she might have been in her early 30s when she started a company, relatively inexperienced compared to the boys' club, taking on the titans of Manhattan, and she won. She created the market dominant company over the next 2 or 3 decades. She built a company that still to this day is one of the greatest companies New York's ever seen. And she sold it for $70 million. And she didn't retire because she was probably 60 at that point, and she still had plenty of life to live and plenty to contribute. And one of the gigs she went on to was Shark Tank, and she's become the most successful investor in Shark Tank. When they followed all their investments, the investments that she made and she worked with outperformed all the others. So we have got her live stream in to AREC, and I think you're going to ask her a range of questions. I think that'll be an incredible hour because she was an agent and she won as an agent. She was a principal, she won as a principal. She's now an investor and she's won as an investor. She's an incredibly capable. My guess is she's probably in the mid-70s.
Right.
Do we know Nicola? How old? Probably mid-70s. Looks like 50.
While that's happening, Nicola, I know that you've sent me a code because and we're going to take this opportunity, John. We'd love to see as many people that we can to come to AREC, right?
Come and see us when you're there. Yep.
Come and see us, come and say hi. So, Nicola, I'm going to get Susan to type into the comments. If you go into the comments on Facebook and on Instagram, we'll put the link to AREC. But what is the link?
So the website is arecconference.com.
arecconference.com, one word in lowercase.
And the discount code is AREC Live 2019.
AREC Live 2019 is the discount code.
And it brings it down to $800 for 48 hours only.
And it's available for 48 hours. So today is Tuesday, let's say Thursday 5 p.m. It becomes invalid. So let's repeat. The code is AREC Live 2019, uppercase or lowercase? Uppercase. AREC Live 2019, $800 ticket for a 2-day conference. I'll just do the calculations. If you're in Sydney or Melbourne, I'll say $300 return flight via Jetstar or Virgin, plus your $800, that's $1,100, plus a night to 2 nights accommodation. It's a $1,500.
$40 a speaker.
$40 a speaker. $40 a speaker.
32 speakers, $45 a speaker.
So the worst that can happen is that you overinvest by $1,500. That's the worst that can happen. You overinvest by $1,500, and the best that can happen is that you can change your life. And I can't get over the amount of people that have changed their lives. Oh, John, I can tell you, I changed my life through a TRED event in 2009 at Noosa Sofitel. Mm-hmm. It wasn't AREC, it was the Principals Conference. And it was Peter Switzer. Mm-hmm. Various people hit you. Mm. And at the time I was 110, 115 kilos, and Peter Switzer sat there and said, so what I did is I met this woman called Arlene Norman, who was a food Nazi. And in the end, I just didn't want to see her anymore. So I thought I'd just better get rid of, right?
He's great, Switz. He's great.
And I went off and I did it. So, sometimes the person that you least expect it is the speaker that changes you, Like, I can't get over the amount of times where someone that has scored like, a 6 or 7 out of 10 as a speaker, but people say to me, that person is the one that impacted him.
Yeah, no, and that's what it's about. Every year, our team, we said, who can we invite that will change their lives? Not just one, but 32. And I think we've done a great job. And as I said, I'm not here to oversell AREC.
So 32 speakers, and out of the 32, 22.
Sorry, 22.
Out of the 22, Nicola,
so we've got $60 a speaker.
$60 a speaker. Geez, you're good with the numbers. Can I just ask you, girl speakers, where we've got at least 30, at least a third.
Cindy Kennedy.
Well,
is going to be there. She's outstanding. Cindy is great. We've got room.
What's
Georgie Bates from Manly.
Cindy Kennedy writes $1 million? More than $1 million?
Oh, more, 1.5.
Okay. Todd Duncan, we've just talked about. Tom Hector. Tom Hector has already said to me, Tom, they're giving me I'm giving him new content on what I'm doing to get a sale a day. Rumour Monday, $1 million out in the Quakers Hill area.
Yep.
David Walker, the #1 selling principal for Ray White in Australia and a top guy. Todd Duncan, well, Tom Ferry says that you're blessed to have this guy. Kylie Charlton and Lisa Tataro, both $1 million agents in marketplaces that are not Double Bay or Prestige. So that'd be good. Steve Kober from New Zealand.
Yep.
$2.5 to $3 million agent from Ray White Remuera, which is the #1 Ray White office in the world. Malik Yunan, he just won the award at the SQM Awards, #1 agent, where they looked at days on market, market share. So they're different to the REB top 100 ones. Sonia Trelaw.
He's going to talk a lot about prospecting.
Which is an important topic, isn't it, John?
Of course it is.
But the guy, I can tell you right now, the guy that I'm so looking forward to is James Clear. And the reason why is that book, Atomic Habits, like if you actually ultimately think about it, it's a set of behaviours that if they become part of your DNA, you're pretty set in life, And people do find it hard to create habits.
Yeah, and a best-selling book, and in the world, at New York Times bestseller list. And I've seen him so many times on YouTube and whatever. He's just a fantastic guy. You interviewed him, didn't you?
I interviewed him, John. I have to say, I sat there. You know when sometimes you have a person whose delivery is not great, but their content is so good that you think to yourself, you know what, I've just got to keep listening to this guy over and over again, because with speakers sometimes it's this combination.
Yep.
You can occasionally have a speaker where you turn around and say, he hasn't actually said much, but geez, he made me feel good.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is actually not a bad thing.
Correct.
That comes to your energy and how do you feel about the world.
And then occasionally you've got a speaker who everything that they say is just a golden nugget. Everything that they say is a nugget. It's just the content is incredible. And I think that he falls into that category. Go onto YouTube and watch him. I'm having a look at, the guy,
Pally is there, and he's a freak of an agent.
I mean, he doesn't submit his awards into the REB, top 100. But John, I'd have to turn around and say over the last decade, 15 years, GCI. I mean,
he'd be nudging 10, I think, 10 million GCI.
Incredible writer. And so we don't know exactly what he's writing, but he is speaking. Daniel Gonzalez, $3 million writer from Perth. Looking forward to that, and. Mark Cohen on talking on technology. So, and I'm also giving everyone a commitment that I will give you 10 pieces of language that are new language, that are not things that you've heard over and over again.
Do that over the 2 days.
Over the 2 days, as I'm speaking, I'll just say, use this language. I've got to tell you, at the moment, a piece of language that seems to be working a lot is. When a buyer says, I read in the paper said the price is going to drop another 10%. I can't get over the amount of agents that are telling me they're getting really good use out of saying, hey, listen, smart buyers are buying. The rest are reading the newspapers at the moment. It's hard for me to have to say this because I'm aligned with a newspaper company.
No, it's a reframe. No, look, it's exciting. So hopefully today we've been able to bring some insights to people. And a lot of our content, mindset, success habits have come through events like AREC. So, we wanted to kind of give AREC a plug because it's not long now. It's how long, Nick? 48 days. Going to be an awesome 2 days. And come and see, make sure you come and see Tommy and I. We love meeting the people. We love when people come and tell us that, you know, they're part of the real estate gym or you listen to MDA. Troy, of course, will be there front and centre.
100%. So Troy, you know, at the moment we've got a very enthusiastic AV person right here. So Troy, just letting you know, our current person is not only streaming this on Facebook Live, he's also putting it on Instagram. He's been really easy to work with, right? You know, so, you know.
While Troy's sunning himself in Los Angeles, I believe.
He's in LA. It's his
Troy's birthday. Happy year, Troy.
Today.
We know he'll be watching.
Troy Malcolm.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Do yourself a favour. Go get yourself a nice dinner and pay for it yourself. Okay, so Johnny, let's leave with some good content. Right now, if I was a real estate agent that was writing 250,000 in GCI, which means that I'm probably making 100 grand a year, roughly, right? Mm-hmm. 250 GCI. I'm not happy. I want to do more. I've been in real estate for 3 years. I was going to have a half-hour coaching session with you, but I want you to make this 2 minutes. What would you be having a conversation with me about?
So step one.
Because you're about to have a coaching session now.
Yeah, step one, own your results.
Own your results.
The reason that you're writing 250 is because of you. And once you get rid of the excuses and saying there's something other than you that's impacting your results, you own them. And the way you're going to write 500, I always start with the 2X principle, is by shifting your energy, your networking, your listing presentation. So you've got to start with owning your results, getting rid of the excuses, breaking free of the mooring lines. And then, I mean, you know, we'll do it at AREC, we'll do it one-on-one, whoever tags, and we will actually go into the detail. We then double click on the gap analysis between where you're at and where you want to be, prospect, list, sell. Let's look at your prospecting plan. Most people, Tom, don't have one. They make a few calls when they're short of listings. That's not a prospecting plan, that's a desperation plan. So, you know, we'll go into the detail of that with them, but the most important thing is think bigger and own your results.
Okay. Guys, we're hoping you come to AREC. We hope that you have a future bigger than your past, and it doesn't matter whether you're 70 or 17, we believe that the future can be bigger than your past, and Tiger Woods proved that. I love that. I just love that, because I remember 2 years ago, he's drunk in the middle of the road, he looks a mess, and watching him, I mean, that was goosebump stuff.
And yeah, like Jordan Belfort, I'm sure there was a part of that past that's been well documented, that he's
self-inflicted
and not, but you got to give him a go. He's come back, he's changed his life, he's got back on the top, and at what, 40?
His age? I'm not sure how old he is, John.
I think he's like mid to even a bit more than mid, 45, 46 or something. He's hit back to be the best on the planet, you know, as at last week's, was it the Masters or the...
Masters yesterday. The great news is the past is fixed, but the future's changeable, guys and girls. Thank you so much. I am going to announce the winner of the free coaching by Friday, 5 p.m. We'll announce the winner. So if you haven't done that, press that share button. Look forward to seeing you at AREC. Guys and girls, thank you so much. Signing off. Thank you, Gordon. We'll finish off on Insta.
Thanks,
and
everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you.
See you soon. See you at AREC.